spring still this quarter, apparently. I don't know who else's allergies have been just. Oh.
Don't talk about it.
Don't talk about it. Maybe the rain has helped.
It might make it worse.
Make some more productive.
I thought I was good until about 2 days ago, and then man.
If that tree started blooming.
And yeah, that's probably what happened. Like one specific tree got me. What are we studying this quarter? Who?
Daniel.
Daniel. Mysteries in Daniel. So, what happened? Where did we pick up at when we are introduced to Daniel? What happened to him from the get-go? His life is peachy. Everything's wonderful. He lives in his own little life. Do what? Well, they...
Taken captive first by Babylon.
Yes. So, I have to constantly remind myself of this. When I read it, I'm like, and he was taken into captivity. And you're like, he was taken just and plucked and thrown 1,000,000 miles away. He might as well have been in another world, right? So his whole world got turned upside down. What happens to a lot of people when bad things happen?
They collapse. They don't make it through.
If what? If they don't have a firm foundation, right? Something they lean on. Is that the case? Or are we finding out that that was the case with Daniel?
No.
No, not at all. What was the case with him then?
He had God in his life.
I almost take it for granted how much he, I guess, leaned on God and how much this was just a given with him, because it doesn't even come up in question where he says, you never see Daniel wondered why this, Daniel. It's not there. He's like, this is the way it is now, but God is still what?
In control.
Yes. He's still here. He's still with me, and all of these other things don't matter. So, where are we? Chapter 1 is called Serving God in Babylon. That name now is almost synonymous with what? Evil, debauchery, everything else.
Right. Idolatry.
Yes. And so he was plucked from where he was and thrown into this den of iniquity, you want to call it. I mean, something that was not godly. And he and several other people were picked to be what? For the king. Workers, right? More or less. And remember what happened. The eunuch was in charge of them and said, here, eat this. This is the king's food, right? Don't eat what you normally eat. Once again, he's in a different world. And he said what?
No.
I'd eaten that mess. And he ended up looking better. He and the other ones looked better. They were healthier, all of that stuff. The king noticed, and they were how many times better than everyone else?
10 times.
10 times better than everyone else in appearance and knowledge and all of that. So, we fast forward a little bit. Nebuchadnezzar had what?
Dream.
What kind of dream?
Nightmares.
Pretty much. It was bad enough for him to remember it and for it to trouble him.
Well, he says he couldn't remember it. He just knew he had it.
Oh, well. But he remembered that. He remembered that he had one that stirred him up.
I'm sure when he heard Daniel tell it, he remembered it.
There we go. Yeah, he remembered it
They
then.
confirmed it then.
Yes. And he got mad when his what are all the words that were his idiots? Yeah. It used every word. His magicians, soothsayers. What was the other word?
Astrologists.
Yeah, astrologists, that's right. So none of them could do it, so he said, what? What good are you?
Kill him.
Kill them. So he just was killing everybody. Daniel said, wait a minute. We can help out. Or not we, who can?
Yeah.
Who was the only one who could?
Daniel, God was the only one.
Yes.
Through Daniel.
This is kind of a common theme with Daniel, and we are really early on. So he was helping Daniel because that's how, in my mind, that's the only way I can figure out how Daniel seemed so calm and sure of himself.
Colin,
Yes,
also,
sir.
you know, Daniel and these three others, they
Yep.
got together, like you say, I would say maybe, we gonna be killed too, so
Yes.
let us get together.
They did. They got their
Think of
heads
what we
together.
can do, go to God and, hey, because, you know, we're not just gonna lay around and get killed. You know?
And that was Shadrach, Meshach, and
Abednego.
Abednego. But that wasn't their real names. Those were their names that were changed. But we all pretty much know them by those names. And last week, Daniel, after they got everything straight, they went to the king, or Daniel went to the king. I believe the other ones were with him, like you're saying. And he explained the dream, and that brings us to, like, I think it was the end of chapter 2, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
We go to, that's part of verse 45. The iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, the gold, the great God has made known to the king what will come to pass. After this, the dream is certain and its interpretation is sure. So that's when he stood up in front of the king and kind of told him some things he wanted to hear and maybe a lot that he really didn't. And just let the chips fall where they may. He told them this is what it is. Verse 46 at the end of chapter 2. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face, prostrate before Daniel. And we talked about that. What was Daniel's position? To begin with, yeah, he was nothing. He was a slave. So he'd started here, and then he's talking to the king, and who fell before who?
The king fell before Daniel.
On his face. Prostrate before Daniel. So, I mean, he's,
Having no power
yes,
before Daniel.
kind of admitting it by his actions. And commanded that they should present an offering and incense to him. 47, the king answered Daniel and said, truly, what? Someone read that, what the king said in 47.
The king answered unto Daniel and said, of a truth it is that your God is a God of gods and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret.
So, what's the expression? The proof is in the pudding, right? The king, and I imagine the king had seen some things in his day, in his reign, right? Everybody was there to serve him. So, he probably got a lot of people telling him what he wanted to hear, what they thought he wanted to hear. Finally, he got somebody that told him the truth. 48, then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many gifts, and he made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon. So we're, just like that, we're here. And chief administrator over all wise men of Babylon. So who was he being groomed to either become or to serve with? Those same wise men, wasn't it? When they got him enslaved, and they were going to put him through their education system, so to speak, to have him become one of those. And he comes in, an upstart or what have you, and he's the boss. 49. Also Daniel petitioned the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. So who did he bring with him?
His three friends.
He brought him. He did not. Did he forget him?
No.
No, not at all. And what's the last part of 49 say?
He sat in the gate of the king.
What's the gate of the king?
It would be like immediate entry.
Yes, it's like the court. It's the immediate. It's the. You don't get any closer than that. So.
Special position.
Yes. And he now has the ear of the king. That brings us to chapter 3. Chapter 3, that's lesson 4 in our study guides. That's on page 29. Will someone read chapter 3, verse 1?
Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 3 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon.
And we thought we were starting to do so well. Right? He said, surely your God is the, but what did he do?
Well, if the time is right after that, then he turned right around and built a humongous statue, which we don't expect.
Mhm.
Because we thought, well, maybe he'll start following God. But he didn't.
An image of gold. If we remember from what last week, when it was explaining,
The head of gold
yeah, what was the, starting at the top, the head was made of?
and gold, and he was that part of it, the king was.
Now, God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, which means he knows everything, he's everywhere, is, always was, and has been. So what that means is, but we are still free moral agents. But does God know what we're going to do yesterday, today, tomorrow, and forever? Does he already know?
Yes.
How's that possible? And us be free moral agents?
He just knows. I mean, he's not
He
making a
don't, he
decision.
gave us a free
Yeah.
will.
Yes, we have free will, but he's there.
Yeah.
In the present, he's there. In the present, he's here. And in the present, he's tomorrow, too. So it's almost like is Nebuchadnezzar tempting fate? An image of gold.
Like if you put a plate of cookies on the table that Corbin loves,
Oh, they're gone.
and you tell him you can't have one, you walk out, leave him in the room, you know what's going to happen.
Yes.
You're not there.
On a fatherly level, yeah.
You know a cookie's leaving.
Yes.
He sets us up, he knows what's going to happen, but we have the choice of doing this or this.
Yes. And I know that on a very small, superficial level. God knows all these things and everything on a level that we can't even put into words or comprehend, right? Height was 60 cubits and width 6 cubits. I meant to look up how big a cubit is.
90 feet. I just did the math. It was 9, a cubit is 18
Yeah,
inches.
okay, that's what I thought a cubit was, something like that or
90
whatever.
feet wide and 90 tall.
So thank you. So you did the math. So it was 90 feet wide and how, no,
It was
90 feet
90
tall.
feet
Tall and 9 feet wide.
Big statue.
Was Nebuchadnezzar playing around?
No.
Be hard to move with a car on the road.
It would be. You'd have 2 or 3.
Wheeler and then still wouldn't fit.
Huge, 90 feet tall. That, we don't even have fire towers anymore because I think they just do everything with, but fire towers were like what? 100 feet tall-ish, right? So imagine a statue that's like just a little bit shorter than the fire towers.
9 stories tall.
Huge. Huge.
Gold.
And gold.
Yeah.
He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. And King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to gather together the satraps, the administrators, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. He almost didn't leave anybody out there, did he? For those of us who were lucky to be here Wednesday night to hear Jan speak. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yvonne.
Yvonne speak. They're not just trying to spread the word, they're having to, fight's not the right word, but it is.
Defend their
Against who?
government and the other religions of power.
Yes.
Like
So-
they were the Catholics.
Yes, so they have, a lot of it was the Catholics and the Orthodox Church, but these people are in positions in the churches, but they're also in positions in government. So they're like this, and they're using all of that to just keep a lock on everything, basically. So if you try to do something outside the church, but just like leave. If you try to be separate from one part of it, they'll just mess up your life, pretty much. They'll just ruin you. Either they'll ruin you spiritually, or try to, or ruin you in your job or something. So, verse 2, he sent word to gather. So far he's the king. He sent word. He said word before to kill these people because they made me mad. So that's not just some cavalier thing. Sent word. The satraps, administrators, governors, counselors, all these people who are in positions of governmental power, right? For what purpose? Why would you want all the big wigs to know all this?
For his pride.
For several reasons. He's one of them. Hey, y'all remember I'm king? And you have to do what I say, but he's also using his
Power.
kingly and political power.
So if you got an invitation, you started planning what you were gonna wear, because you had to go.
Yes. To come to the what? Dedication of the image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. So we're clear, this is whose image? Who set this up? I don't know if it's his visage, but this isn't of God.
It represents him anyway.
Do what?
It represents him anyway.
Yes, it represents his power. Because he's saying, he put it up, he did this, look what we've got here. It represents all of that. I got an angry baby in there. To the dedication of it. So, I mean, there's a lot of pomp and circumstance and all that. Will someone read verse 3, please?
Then the princes, the governors and captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up.
Thank you. What translation is that?
King James Version.
Okay. I have the New King James. So different names for the same positions. So the king told everybody to come, and what happened?
They came.
They came. Verse 4, then a herald cried aloud. What's a herald?
An announcer,
Or who is it? A what?
like an announcer.
Yeah. I kind of picture almost like a jester or somebody who's dressed up real big, maybe holding the staff, or, he gets everybody's attention, look at me. And he's the mouthpiece for Nebuchadnezzar. Then a herald cried aloud, to you it is commanded. What you is he talking to?
All those.
Everybody, yeah, all of those people too, but everybody that was in attendance. To you it is commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages. So we're not leaving anybody out. Everybody, I don't care who you are, if you're any nation, I don't care what language you speak, I don't care. Verse 5, that at the time you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, and somebody help me. Psaltery. Yeah, just drop the P. And psaltery in symphony with all kinds of music. That sounds fancy, doesn't it? With all kinds of music, you what?
Shall fall down and worship the image.
Shall fall down. This is not an option. We'd like it if you guys, it'd be neat if you did. That's not what he told them.
No.
You shall fall down and worship the gold image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. So what are we doing? With as much pomp and circumstance as we can muster, we're going to dedicate this 90-foot statue out of gold, and we're going to blare what?
Music.
Yes. Horn, flute, harp, lyre, psaltery, and a symphony with all kinds of music. It's going to be a big thing. Did any of them, it doesn't tell us that any of them knew that this was coming.
They had to know
Something.
they had to see it. Have y'all seen what they put up in the field over yonder?
You don't build a 90-foot statue out of gold
For no reason.
for nothing, and it doesn't just
sit
I knew
there.
something was coming in.
You're not
Yeah.
walking by with your sandals on or riding your chariot and go, where did that come from? It took them a while. It had to have, right? This is big. It would now. It'd take forever to build something like that. So they had to have known something, but
They got their command right here, you shall
yes.
do this.
And you know, people have been talking. I mean, stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. So they have been talking. Maybe they knew, but I would suspect that there's some people that when they hear this go, what? You shall fall down and worship the gold image that King Nebuchadnezzar set up. And whoever does not fall down. So we have the first one. We just have to, this is what you have to do. And some people might say, well, that's not so bad. Or maybe I don't want to. Right? Verse 6. Whoever does not fall down, and then now you got half the people going, well, that was almost me. If you don't fall down and worship, you shall be cast immediately into what?
The midst of a burning fiery furnace.
We know this story. You know where we're going. That's next week. But what, in the midst, so we're talking about in the middle of, not off to the side, not you might make it through this. What's a fiery furnace?
It's probably what they used to melt that gold to build that statue.
It probably is.
And I imagine that they had it right there, all heated up as a show for those
That's
people.
right.
Because this is a dedication.
Okay,
And
look
a,
right here, this is, this, so this is what happens if you don't.
yeah. And, we may be reading this like, to all you that is commanded. This guy's like, do every, he's shouting at the top of his lungs and doing stuff. And when he said, and he's like, and if y'all don't do it, we're going to burn you in a fire. That's not what he said. He probably, like you said, it's probably very close, and there's probably smoke rolling, and we're going to burn you there. So this is real. This isn't like, they may be kidding. This is real. This has an immediacy, like right now. Sometimes things happen, and you have a little while to think about it. A few hours, 30 minutes, a day, 2 weeks. What about this? I'm not good with things that hit me just like boom. You ever seen something happen, like an accident, a wreck, or something, and it's surreal? You're like, that didn't just happen, did it? It just. That's what we've got going on.
I wonder why it says fall down instead of bow down. Do they mean bow down, or do they?
I wondered that.
Trying to separate that, like, no, they didn't want them to bow down. They wanted them to actually, as if they
I
fell
don't
down.
guess it really makes any difference if you're getting down in front of it.
Maybe, but I wondered that myself.
They mean immediately answer the king's command. Immediately,
Yeah.
instantly.
Yes, ma'am.
I said, but in countries now, they'll get down on their knees
Yes.
when they're about, their heads touch the ground almost, they actually get down.
If you think about it, when Daniel interpreted the dream, wasn't Nebuchadnezzar, he fell prostrate on the ground.
That's right.
That's what he did.
That's their way of worshiping.
Perform submitting to
That's-
high authority.
That's the biggest thing, in my opinion.
Yes.
It is full on, under this thumb, full submission to it. And this is why, when you end chapter 2, and then you take a 2-second break and start in chapter 3, and you say, what just happened? What just happened? Because the king, just as we're reading, just a second ago was the one doing the bowing, and now he's like, it's like he came to his previous self, or his
You got
worldly
to
self.
realize, though, there's a time span.
There's a considerable one right here.
There's a big one to
Yeah.
build that thing.
Yes, there's a big time span here.
Right.
But as we're reading it, it's just,
Yeah.
2 seconds. But it's not 2 seconds. This is a long span right in here. But yeah, I think it's all those things, but I really think it's y'all really have, put your face in the dirt. This is
Grovel.
Yeah. This is the way it is now, and y'all are nothing compared to this thing that you're worshiping that I made. I mean, the king is almost twice removed from better than the people, right? So, but he's telling them to worship this thing that he made. That's a good trick.
It's like he's reminding them constantly, I'm the king, don't you forget it. I'm the king, don't you forget it.
Like we said, the statue represents him, and in a roundabout way, they are worshiping him.
Yes. Very
They're not
true.
just worshiping the statue, they're worshiping him.
And if you don't, where are you going?
Burn you up.
We're going to kill you. Not quick, not nice. We're going to burn you alive if you don't. And that is crazy to me that we're probably going to burn you in the thing that we quote made. This God with a little g, this statue with. Verse 7, so at that time when all the people heard the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, in symphony with all kinds of music, all the people, nations, and languages fell down and worshipped the gold image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Now, what was, in Babylon, what was their religious mindset, I guess? I'm asking, what
Pagan, many
Yeah.
gods.
is this anything new to like really 99% of the people?
No, because they had pagan gods in their houses.
Well, I mean, so maybe it was like, what? Oh, another God we got to worship. Okay, let's just do this today.
It was that attitude and that specific behavior that they had to be constantly aware of. You know, whatever I'm doing, I got to fall down and worship.
Maybe that's why he had to make a new God, G-O-D, lowercase. You know? Maybe they're bored with the other ones and the other people are starting to go, you know what, maybe this is your, you know, every few years.
One a little bigger bit.
Yes. I don't want to, well, I do. What's our application today? Does that stuff happen today?
Yes.
All the time. It happens with everything. It happens with commercialism. It happens with cars. Let's just go with cars. Every year, looks just like the old one. It's so much better than the one. It was just. It's always something else. Never this one was the good one and is the only one. So we always have to reach for something. Why do we have to reach for? Why did they? Yes, humans. Thank you. Why is there always something that you have to reach for?
Like cell phones.
Like cell phones. Oh, that's a good one.
One little change.
One little change, and the rest is that's the obsolete one. That's the old cell phone. That's the little God. That God's only a statue this big that's in your house. Look how big this one is. You're always having to reach for something because you're never gonna grab it
Yeah.
because it's always a creation of man. Yes, sir.
You know, looking at here, what had been stated and said, you know, he had the speaker to say that if when you hear this sound or all these instruments, you're going to bow down, starting verse 7, you know,
Yes.
5 on down, then get to 7. And then, you know, it's like, say, we're going to practice this. Now, I have told you what you got to do. Now let's do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And
Right now, you know, let's do it.
Mm-hmm. This is the new way. This is the new worship, and like you said, I'm pretty sure this happened like from end of chapter 2 into 3 was a long time span. This I don't believe was weeks, months. This was, and now we're doing it right now. Verse 8. Therefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came forward and accused the Jews. They spoke and said to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, what?
Live forever.
Oh, king.
Get on his good side before they
Yeah.
complain.
Let's come up, let's get low and throw our hands. King, you're the best. O king, live forever. Verse 10, you, O king, have made a... So they're going to tell him what he already knows. To make him say, yeah, that's right. Heather just walked outside. She tells me something that I already know, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. And I'm the one getting tricked. It's the truth. everybody's fighting for some sort of power here, right? Everybody's trying to get their little piece of comfort and power and certain Chaldeans came forward and accused the Jews because they accused the Jews. Why? Because we don't like them and we want to get what we want.
Three of them did.
Yeah. They spoke and said to Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree. He knows that. You've made a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, and the psaltery, in symphony with all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And the king says, what? That's right, I did. Y'all are listening to me, and I'm the king of you. That's their way of getting in with the king, right? And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. That's right. So the king's starting to get on their side.
Here they come.
Verse 12. Will someone read that?
There are certain Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not paid due regard to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the gold image which you have set up.
King's been mad before. What's the king going to do? He's made this gold image. He's done this. He's done that. What's the king going to go? Well, let him be.
Back up on his decree. He cannot back up on his decree.
No, they cannot. This goes back to the laws of the Medes and Persians.
That's right.
Well, it looks to me like they're probably jealous of him. They did the same thing that that later they did to Daniel about prayer. They want to get rid of him, and they just want to get rid of this.
Yes. It's just everybody trying to get their own way, their own little piece of something. These words are funny. Verse 12. Then there are what Jews?
Certain.
I see eyes looking all shifty. There's certain Jews.
Certain Jews that you
That's not nice.
set.
Yeah, it's not nice at all. There are certain Jews whom you've set over the affairs of, So now they're having to tiptoe a little bit with that. Of the province of Babylon. Well, who can that be? It can only be a certain number. And then they go and name them, right? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Let's be specific.
Yeah, let's go ahead and use their names. Their names are important. So, O king, they have not paid due regard to you. They do not serve your gods with a little g, with an S, more than one little god, or worship the gold image which you've set up. How many gods do they have?
A lot.
A lot.
But this one is bigger.
This is the new one.
And newer.
Man, it's so hard to stop right there. It's ridiculously hard to stop right there. But next week picks up at verse 13.